Hello, this is Marco from Axel Tech. Today we're going to see how we can import playlists into XPlayout of different file formats. The goal is to achieve integration with third-party traffic systems. So first of all, I'm going to open the XScheduler, which is the internal tool which is used to create playlists in the native XPlayout XTV format. This is a playlist. Of course, I can save it. I'm going to overwrite the same file. And I'm going to show you that I can, of course, natively import that. I see a preview here, and of course, the file is loaded. What is an XSC file? It's actually an ASCII file. I'm going to open it, and there it is. Just text and a lot of data formatted more or less like a NIN file. From the XPlayout, from the XScheduler, I want to show you can also export to CSV format, okay, or actually XML as well, and those will import actually correctly into the playout. So let's try with the CSV, and there you have it. And if we have a look into it, with Excel or LibreOffice, okay, I think semicolon is the right one. It's comma-separated value CSV, but usually a semicolon is used. There you have it, the three events. On the first row, we'll find all the headers. We'll talk about headers a lot, with all the different parameters. The most important, of course, is the start time, the title, maybe the media file name, and mark in and mark out points or others. Okay, I want to show you also that you can create just a simple text file. So the second format that we can, the third also XSC, CSV, but also TXT file. Of course, TXT file can contain a simple list of a complete file, video file path and name on the different rows. And if you try to import that of course will import also. Okay, now let's see some more, let's say, complete formats. So I'm going into the program files, the x86, the XTV Suite folder, and going to the XtvTestFile. I have a sample folder, a folder with sample files, and I'm going to go with the first one. Here you have it. Okay, first let's look at the content. I have a CSV file only with the media name. If I show you, it's actually very similar to the text file, but it does have a row, a first row with headers. And of course, if I try to import that, so let's go and navigate to the, to the XTV folder. I'm having difficulty with my mouse here. CSV, there I am. And I'm going to go to my XTV folder and my test file, CSV, and I have one native, only media name, and there you have it, okay? Of course, it does not contain any other information apart from the media name. I go to the second one, time and duration. This is more interesting. I have a scheduled time and a time and date with title, with media. Let's see how that is made. Time and duration, there I have it. And as you see, I have multiple columns, the most important ones, which is start time date, start time, duration with decimals, title, and media name. So the first thing you should notice is that in XPlayout, date and time are actually represented as a single cell, okay? So if in this case, my date is in one column and my time is in another column. So, and that's why I have to specify in the headers how to treat that information. And there's a document in the root folder here which exactly explains that to me. So this format, the start time would be the native format for XScheduler. But in this case, I'm telling the system, use a column for the date and use a column for the time. Beware that it uses regional settings. So Windows must be set up accordingly in the control panel. Let's try importing something else, like mark specified, replace. Okay, so that also imports correctly. What do I have here? Essentially, let's close this guy, go inside here, mark specified. I have a mark in and a mark out, okay, in which I have specified in and out points. I actually changed these because in my regional settings I have a point, so that's why it's doing this correctly. Actually, if I try to prepare this guy, it's going to probably give an error here. Yeah, see, duration. Why is that? Well, in the regional settings, my separation for decimal is a point. In this case, it's a comma, so it doesn't interpret it correctly. So if I want to correct this, or I set it up in my correctly in my regional settings, I'm just going to quickly overwrite here. And if I save, okay, in that case, and I re-prepare, it's going to, well, probably going to go back, or probably have to re-import or something like that. There I have it, okay. Yeah, so it's preparing correctly. Okay, so one thing, if you do want to use your mark in and mark out information which is in the playlist, you will have to set up a special setting, which is in the mode settings here in the third-party playlist settings. And what you need to specify is use the playlist marks. Of course, the marks have to be managed correctly inside the traffic system. And so all mark in and mark out information which were set by the extrimmer tool will be ignored. Okay, but usually it's not like that. Okay, let's go to the last one, last CSV. And I'm here. What do you have inside? Oh, all information. This was actually created by the XScheduler, and it's there just because if you want to, use all the columns inside. Okay, let's go with another sample, a little more complex. This CSV over here. Well, if I try to import that, the preview is already telling me it doesn't understand a thing. Why? Well, until now we have been using let's say native settings for XPlayout, where the headers of the CSV files are actually contain the information that XPlayout is looking for. So in this case, it's not. So let's have a look at exactly the format. So if you have a third-party system which allows you to specify the names of the headers, you can put that information in the third-party system. So the CSV file or other type of file that we will see afterwards are actually created correctly. In this case, I have a comma-separated value, and the first thing I see, it's not using a semicolon, it's using a column. So that's going to have to be corrected. Okay, let's correct that right away. I'm going to go into System Settings, and in the same section, I'm going to tell the system to use a comma as a separator. Unless I do that, XPlayout is for default is using the semicolon. Let's go back here. Let's go back to our CSV file, and as you see, the headers are completely different from what XPlayout is expecting. So how do I fix this? Okay, well, I need to use a technology which is a header mapping technology. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually click on that, and as you see now it's different. It is important something, but it's yellow. It means it doesn't understand it a lot. So what I'm going to tell the system is to create the debug files for that CSV. And I'm going to click just once, and then I'm going to take it out. What the system did is actually created two new files in the folder. One is the sheet data, which is just a system saving a CSV file with the loaded data, so you can actually see if the data was loaded correctly. And yeah, I would say the data is the same, so the separation, the character is correct, and blah, blah, blah. But most of all, it actually created a file in which it copied for me all the columns that it found. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is actually rename this file, okay, just to show you, and I'm going to call it use this file for header mapping, okay. And now I just simply need to tell the system what exactly this start date is. And if you remember, start date, let's go and have a look at it, would actually be this guy's date, start time date. That's what it's called in XPlayout. So I can close this. I said close this. Where I have it, where my file go. Oh, I closed it. Oh, no, it's over here, sorry. Double tap. And I'm going to put that there. What about start? Well, the start is actually my start time. So it's going to be this guy over here. Okay? And so forth. The duration is going to be duration with decimals. The file name is going to be my media name. The title is going to be a title, and blah, blah, blah. Essentially, you must complete all the information and translate the headers appropriately. Okay? Actually, I do already have a already made header, which is this guy over here, in which I already, completed that. And how do I tell the playout to use that header? Well, I go in System Settings. I tell the system enable header mapping, and I specify that file. Okay, that file, this guy, for that header mapping. So then I restart. Not actually. I just reload the settings, saying no. And now we try to import that file. Playlist Manager, and that will be the file, the CSV, and we go replace. And actually the file imports quite correctly, okay? I'm missing my media, and then we'll get into that. But as you see, I can check my schedule time. Yeah, that's correct, it's going up, yeah. I check my durations are there, my titles are there, the media is there, even though it's not complete, that's why it's not finding anything. And the only thing I see, which is kind of strange, is this guy over here, which has a different color and says it's ready. Let's go and see what happened. Well, exactly in that line, actually, if I open the file, let's open it so we have it, okay. The media specified is P4112, okay. So this is one of the first things that when media name is imported, the XPlayout will actually compare it to all the line settings it has inside. These are the line inputs. And I do have a line which is exactly the same name. I actually said it before the recording. And that's a way of telling the system when a specific media is supposed to be a line input or it's supposed to look for a file. Okay, so that's kind of, and this is done for any type of TXT, CSV, XLS, XLSX, XML, and BXF file. Okay, that's kind of interesting. There is another way, actually, of doing that. If there's no match with the line description of this guy, there's also a way of defining a line memo folder, which we will talk about afterwards. Oh, I'm going to change the subject to just concentrate on something else. We also import from other types of file natively, which I want to show you, and I have them here in other playlist formats, which is PLY files. That's kind of interesting, and LST files. They're just different file formats. They don't need translation. They don't need anything. It's just let's say that the parsing is built in. LST is a Harris file format. Okay, come back to us. Now, to actually go on air, apart from this live event, which will go on air, the rest cannot go on air. What is the reason? The reason is that the column which has the file name does not actually contain a complete file name. It's just something. In order to go on air, the system needs a path, like a letter for local drive, or a share / my universal name convention, the name of the file and then the extension to put on there. Okay, so in this case, this information is not there. So the workaround is actually to set a folder, okay, where the system is going to look for that media. So the downside is all the media is going to be in that folder, or else the system will not find it. And simply because there's no information on where to look for it in the playlist. So I'm going to put media there. Okay. Another important thing is the extension. So if all my media is going to be an MP4, I'm just going to write MP4 there, or MPG, or MOV, or whatever. But you know that XPlayout can play out any type of file. So that's kind of a limitation, okay? And so we did develop a new thing that you can just put a star there. So he will look for the code dot star, and he will look for that. And that's kind of interesting. And let's, oh, I pressed yes, sorry. So we'll have to wait. So in the meantime, let's go just to look at our media folder. Okay, media folder. Here I have it. No, sorry, it was the Z drive. Media folder. Okay, this is my media folder. I'm going to take this out. Actually, I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to call it P2323, something like that. You need permission. Why do I need permission? Come on. Okay, let's just copy something else. Z, HD mob. I'm going to go with this guy. I'm going to put it in that folder. And I'm going to argue with Windows now during the recording. Control V. Okay. So I'm going to import that playlist again. Oh, this was not the playlist. Sorry, it's going to be here, here, second CSV example. I'm going to go here, and there it is. Of course, I have my line as I described. Let's look at this guy over here. It's going to be P4364. So let's rename this guy to P4364 and go like that. And then when I go back in, oh, it's ready. So actually, it found it and just renaming. So now it's going to be easy. I just have to put all my files inside that media folder, and the system is going to play out. Okay. There is something which I don't like about this, and I know you see something there, that this it's going to be a folder full of codes and numbers which are not actually that friendly. Of course, in this case, the playlist had this CJ Wowshout 379, so, you know, it's kind of friendlier than a P3927 or something like that. But in the case that you do have all codes, and some traffic systems use what is called a house name or a house ID, which is actually a code. So there is a workaround for this. And the workaround is the following. If you go to System Settings, and you go back to your mode, we have a suffix here. This is kind of interesting. So this is going to be what's after the file. So if you decide a separator, and the separator has to be something which can be in the name of the file, so you can't use the slash, you can't use, you know, the not allowed characters. I'm going to put an underscore here, but you could use a dash if you don't use a dash in your codes. And you go dash star. So that's kind of nice. I'm going to go no this time. And what happens is that you can rename that file to something more friendly or friendlier. So this is my station ID in order to recognize, you know, your files. And if I try to reload that, you will see come on, no file. Let's see why. Oh, it didn't. I have to reload the playlist with the new parameters. I will reload the playlist, and now you see I have an underscore there. So P4364. I was expecting it to load. Let's see what happened. P4364 underscore. Huh, I forgot the underscore. That's why I'm always distracted. And let's put that underscore there. And now my suffix is complete and my clip is ready. So that's kind of a cool option in order, just to look at your folder and to understand what files there are, and actually to manage them, because once the folder fills up, you also going to need to, I don't know, archive stuff, take out things, put things in, and check for that. So that's kind of an interesting option. Okay, maybe it's the time already to talk about that line and memo folder. So we kind of complete these parameters. We don't have a lot yet to say. The line and memo folder is kind of interesting. I'm going to define a line and memo folder. Okay, and I'm going to go here, and I already have a line and memo folder. Line and memo folder, there you have it. Okay, I'm going to go set and no. And I'm just going to take another simple file, which is this guy over here. Okay, I think I'm going to take this guy, P3927. How does that work? Well, you can open the trimmer, and the trimmer allows you to create dummy files representing live events, URLs, and memo commands, and treat those as if they were video files. So if I want to create a live event, I can tell, I don't know, news at 9. Okay, I'm going to tell the system which live event it should use, I don't know, number 3. And when I press OK, it'll ask me to save that to a file. And I'm going to go line, I'm going to go check my file again. It's called P3927, so I have to call that the same, P3927. And then, of course, what you can do with it is change the duration. So, I don't know, let's go like 30 minutes or something like that. And then I can add secondary events and do all sorts of things. That's the advantage. As you've seen, I can create URLs the same way, or I can memo files. Memo files can contain commands for IP streaming, routing, CG, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So in that case, now when I import again, I expect that event to be transformed, let's say, automatically into a memo. Yeah, there you have it. No, it didn't. For some reason, P3927, it should have, okay? Or maybe I need also, let's check, I'll do this, okay? So, media, where did I put it? I put it in line and memo, oh, I didn't save it in the right folder. Okay, let's try that again. Line name, where did I save it? Line name, line number. Okay, it's not saving. I don't know where I saved it. Did I put it in the media file? Media. No. So let's just rename something which is already there. I didn't choose the right one, so it's going to be, I don't know, this guy. 3927. P3927. Line 2. Let's see if we can accomplish this. Playlist, re-import. Okay. And let's see if I have it. Where did it go? 3927. No, I still don't have it. Well, I'll check on that later, actually. But that's kind of a cool option if you want to define lines and memo events, okay, in the line memo folder. Okay, I'll check that afterwards why it doesn't work. Anyway, let's go on. Since we have to get on, okay, we have some XLS file and BXF files to try out, okay. So in the Excel file, do I have something there? Yeah, I do. It's importing something, but it's not really importing correctly. So why? Let's have a look. Okay, so down, and let's see it here in the CSV2. I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna go into Excel file. Let's see how this is made. The Excel file, it's kind of nice because it takes away the issue with the separator character. This, guys, I have, oh, of course, first row is my header row. it's not XTV file format, so it does need let's say a header file. So let's try and set that header file. I do have one already made here in the example, and these are the headers. As you see, they're almost all the same. So let's set that. And in the header file, go up, go to the XLSX headers, okay, set no. Meanwhile, let's check how the media name column is. And it's this guy. And the media name column, not sure, oh, it's this guy over here, okay, the media number. So yeah, it's a house ID. It will also need the settings for the default media path and media extension. So yeah, as you see, Z media will be the path, then I have the code, and then I can use also the suffix, which is cool. Oh, you see here, that's kind of interesting. You see yellow lines. These are called memo lines. Whenever there's a line inside the playlist which has something wrong with it, it will not be skipped, but it will be put in the playlist so you know, and it will tell you the reason why it has this issue. So it has duration issue. If you see over here, let's take the first one. Has duration issue of type F0. You find that in the description files. And also has no media. Let's see if it's true. Yeah, so it has a time, it's a break, 0, no duration, no media, there's nothing to put on air. So it's considered a memo, a comment, okay? That's kind of useful as well. Let's go on. Let's see what else we can import. Okay, so we have a XLX, okay, which is more or less the same. So let's see what we have. I'm going up, okay. And as you see, I have some memo and I have the header mapping, but essentially it's all the same. So I'm going to skip directly to probably the most interesting ones, which are the XML files, which are in BXF formats. So BXF is essentially a broadcast interchange format, which is supposed to be kind of, let's say, universal. And essentially, it's an XML file with a predefined header mapping that is always the same for each file. And actually, we have find two examples of BXF here. And one is the first one is the second one. And it essentially really depends on where you want to put your data. So here you have more data. We have some secondary events as well. We'll see that. And some data is copied on certain columns for reconciliation and so forth. So the file translation is the same, but essentially you can configure it a little bit. So how do you activate your BXF or the options? We will talk about the show date option afterwards. I'm just going to tell the system, use a BXF XML type 1, and you're going to point to that. I'm going to use the last one, okay. And it's going to use the media folder because it has a house ID with no path and no extension. It's going to use the line memo to find live events or, let's say, secondary events, and it's going to use these two as well. You're not, unless this remains the same, use playlist marks is used when you want mark in and mark out information to be managed by the playlist created by the traffic system. It has to be precise, and you cannot use the extremer to do that, so it's specific workflow. Marks is time code. As you know, we use file code mostly, which simply means that the position starts from 0 on all video files, but time code can be embedded, and sometimes in certain traffic systems they use time code instead of file code, and this is also very, very particular because it has to be precise. So these two are for very, let's say, vertical traffic system. The last one I want to show you is the show date. A show date essentially, meanwhile, I'm just going to set this and import. In the playlist manager, if you don't have a date in the playlist, and this is true for LST files, for example, coming from Harris, it only has a time. Well, in the playlist manager section, you'll find a new text box where you can insert the date. And also, if the name of the file of the playlist has a good syntax and it can dezoom the date from that file syntax, well, it will be able to import that. So now let's try and import that XML in wide orbit. There I have it. I'm going to like the last one. There you have it. I'm just going to go replace, and you're just importing. So what it did, it actually imported some comments, so yellow, some information which they have no media, and they're just also comments and so forth, and of course the media files which I don't have. Some things he recognized directly as a line or memo command. Did you see this? So actually what it did find is SA in the original XML file. That was the house ID. So what the system did, it found the line of memo. So this time it actually worked. Let's go and find out what it did. Line and memo. So I had a file called SA_chow line 3. So instead of considering that as a media file, it considered it as a line input, and it automatically changed the name looking at that. So interesting thing is, I didn't remember this, in line and memos, it also applies the suffix information, not the extension, because line have line n extension, memos have line 0 extension. But if you want to add comments to that P in order to understand what it is, in order to be more friendly names, it did import that correctly. So essentially, of course, if you have difficulties creating your header mapping files, you can always send us your playlist. We'll have a look into it. If the information is formatted in a specific way, which we still not support, we will add a specific file, a specific name for the header for you in order to import it correctly. So we can give you a hand, because sometimes it's not that easy. Of course, it's once you have your file from your traffic system, it's a one-time deal. You just need to, do your header file correctly, and then it's simple as 1, 2, 3, and you can import your files very, very easily. But I realize that the first time you do this, the information mapping from one file format to the other can be a little tedious. It must be tested as well. But once you've done that header mapping file correctly, the systems are perfectly integrated. Okay. So thank you very much, and until next time.